When we speak of an environment, even in your life, you are living in a society, okay, and you have an environment around you. What is your environment? Your college that you go to, your the place where you stay, your friends around you, your society, all this is your environment. So you are living in an environment in such a way that nobody is adversely affected because of you being there. In fact, your society, your college, your friends, your family, all are benefited by your existence. In the same manner, you put it for a business. In a business also, when a business functions, it should function in a way in which people around you are benefited by your existence. Several examples to make you understand. Let's start with the first one, and that is internal and external environment. Now, every business will have this kind of environment. It could be either internal or it could be external. When we say internal, what do we mean? We mean our employees, we mean the raw material, we mean the machines, we mean the banks that we are dealing with. All these are under our control, right? This is our business environment and it is under our control. How the management plans to run the business, what is the leadership style of the organization, do the employees work in fear, or do they work with a free mind, right? So this is the things that is in your control internally. You should be able to control your internal environment, and that is the thing you can control. There are other things like the external environment, like a change in the political conditions, or it could be some new technology coming in, or it could be some new legal regulations. When there are certain things that happen externally, or it could be a calamity, it could be a cyclone, which is not under your control, right? External environment. So that is not under your control. Internal environment is what is under your control. So at any point of time, the business has to be ready to handle external environment, which is very difficult because external environment is not easily predictable. Okay, like recently we saw what happened in Maldives and India. Okay, there was a row, some politician from Maldives said something about our Honorable Prime Minister, and there was an issue. As a result, what happened? Businesses, the tourism industry in Maldives is suffering because Indians have boycotted Maldives. So there are businesses that are running in Maldives which are now being affected. So whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? It is not the businessman's fault. He did not do anything. He is running his business well. His internal environment is in his control. He is, treating his employees well. He had the right raw materials. He had everything right. What went wrong? Externally, something that is beyond his control. Correct? So this is just one latest example if I have to give you when it comes to political instability. Something going wrong in the external environment which is not really under your control. But there are things that is under your control, and that's what we will look at today. Okay, there's this news which came off late where it said that this company, Aritzia, the former staff of Canadian fashion giant Aritzia, open up about culture of fear. 4 toxic workplaces that you should not ignore is what is the gist of this article. Now, does this come under internal or external? Internal. Your employees, you have to handle your employees, right? So if you are having a culture of fear, your employees are not going to be working in a happy manner. They're going to be working in a different zone altogether, right? So the ex-employees of Canadian fashion giant Aritzia have spoken out about the toxic company culture. If you recall, recently there was even a talk about Byju's culture and how it's not good. So this is internal environment which is very much in control of the business itself. They can surely control this, because once the word spreads out that Byju's is not treating his employees well, or Aritzia is not treating his employees well, once the word goes out into the market, it doesn't go down well with your customers. And then customers may want to boycott your product. This also happened with Raymond's Gautam Singhania, when he was having a tiff about his relationship with his wife and his father and all. There was all on the internet, people saying that let's boycott Raymond. Why should we buy a Raymond product if the owner is like this? So it affects your internal environment, will affect your external environment. These are things under your control. I'll give you some beautiful examples to make you understand. Okay, there's this company by the name of Zappos. Okay, superb company. There was a time, I'm sure you've heard of this whole thing called customer is king. Okay, some maybe 1 or 2 decades ago, this was a big word, customer is king, customer is king. No doubt, customer is king. So Zappos took it really seriously. Customer is king. Zappos was then selling shoes online. So there was in those days, an old story since I told you it is, in those days, if you bought a pair of shoes and you want to return it, you have to take those shoes to the courier center and return it. Okay, not like how it is done today, where the courier man comes to your doorstep and takes your product for returns. No. So that's how it was. So there was one particular incident where one lady, she purchased 10 pairs of shoes, and there was a clause that you've got to return it within 10 days. If you don't like the shoes, you've got to return it within 10 days, and you've got to go to the courier center and return it. So one lady bought 10 pairs of shoes, and even after 10 days, she did not return any shoes. So what should Zappos do ideally? Assume that she likes all the 10 pairs, right? Instead, Zappos customer service personnel called up this girl and asked her, "Madam, you have purchased 10 pairs of shoes. Are you sure you want to keep all of them and you don't want to return any?" So this girl said that actually I want to return 3 pairs, but since my mother is ill in the hospital, I didn't get the time to take it to the courier center. So what does Zappos do? First of all, Zappos need not call up because 10 days are over, correct? Still, the customer care personnel called up the person and she inquired as to whether you really liked all the 10 pairs. Okay, that was, over and beyond her job. Then, when she came to know that her mom is in the hospital, she said, "Don't worry, ma'am, I will send someone to your place to collect the 3 pairs that you want to return." And she did so. And the next day, this customer care personnel also sent a bouquet to the hospital. That's known as customer service. Now, this example is pasted all over the internet. Okay, an example of not only excellence in service, but an example of how you run your business in such a way that you have empowered your employees to take decisions on the spot and to take intelligent, smart decisions. Where no doubt she's spending money on the bouquet, no doubt she's spending money to send a courier person to the customer's doorstep. But the beauty of it is that how the employees are empowered to work. Now, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was this whole thing, as I said earlier, employee is king. Customer is king. Customer is king. It was a huge thing that was going around everywhere, every time. Customer is king. Forever. Okay? Then comes this person, Vineet Nair. He is the former CEO of HCL Technologies. So then he was the CEO. He comes along and he says, "Employees first, customers second." What does that mean? It means that if you keep your employees happy, they will ensure that they keep their customers happy. And during the time that Vineet Nair was the CEO, and even after that, this company has done exceedingly well with this one philosophy that we will first handle our internal customer, our internal people, who is our employees. We will first handle our internal people, who will then in turn ensure that our customers are happy. Okay, employees are. Now, the next feature or a characteristic of business environment is that it is dynamic and ever changing. Business environment is dynamic and ever changing. This is Bajaj scooter. Some of you all may have seen this scooter on the road sometime, maybe one odd scooter, you must have seen this on the scooter. You heard of Chetak, right? The new Chetak electric vehicle. I'm sure you heard of Bajaj Chetak. So this is the original Bajaj Chetak. Now this, I'm trying to make you understand why they say business environment is ever changing. Why is it dynamic? Okay. How companies need to evolve. Okay. So Bajaj, superb company, doing exceedingly well. First it was Rahul Bajaj, now it is Rajiv Bajaj at the helm, doing exceedingly well. They have changed with times. This Chetak is a 50-year-old story, 1972. Okay, so how business was done in those days? Those were the days when we didn't even have roads, proper roads. That time you introduce a two-wheeler, when even the construction of roads were like dismal. Okay, then this was the time 1972 to 1980. If you wanted to buy a Bajaj scooter, there was a waiting period of, you know how many months? 10 years. In today's world, if there is a waiting period of even 3 to 4 months, your customer will go to your nearest competitor, right? But in those days, there was no competitor. There was no competitor. Bajaj Chetak was the only vehicle. There was no competitor. 10 years was the waiting period of Bajaj Chetak. Then some years, then of course they evolved so beautifully. And today of course Chetak is again given a new face and it's now into the premium electric scooter segment. There was one vehicle which came along, and that was the Lohia Machines LML Vespa. This was the LML Vespa of those days. Now, since Bajaj was the first mover, the first person who came with the vehicle in this field, what happens is the one who comes into the market with a fresh new product, and the first one to come will capture the market, will get the major share of the market, right? Bajaj of course did. Some years later, just 2-3 years later, LML Vespa came along with the tie-up with Piaggio. This vehicle had people were wanted to give a try to because of the waiting period of Bajaj. This vehicle, before it even set up its production plant in India, they got so much of pre-booking money. The amount they received from the pre-booking was more than the cost of setting up a production plant in India. You understand? So that's how much of that is the amount of demand a two-wheeler had in India. I'm talking of 1972 to 1980. How it is dynamic, how it is ever changing, and if you don't change with times, like for Chetak for example, they changed with times. They moved from they kept on upgrading themselves, and this Bajaj especially faced a huge lot of problems because after this Chetak was introduced, for 1 decade they were doing exceedingly well. After that came in Kinetic Honda. I don't know whether you all know of this vehicle, Kinetic Honda. This vehicle was targeted for female riders. This Chetak, if you see the older one, is you had to kick start it. Kinetic Honda came in with button press start, and as a result it became a big hit among female riders. Okay, so this was typically for the men and that was for the ladies. Then came TVS Scooty, again targeting ladies. So Bajaj also had to eventually move on and upgrade themselves. And Bajaj had a tie-up with Kawasaki Bajaj. They had one vehicle with that. Then their vehicles then took off. Then they also had competition from Hero, from Honda, they had lot of competition in the two-wheeler market also. So they had to shift their focus from Chetak to the two-wheeler bike market. And then eventually, of course, if you come back to Chetak is doing exceedingly well as of now. And Bajaj also had tie-ups with KTM, and they are also doing well in the market as of now. Okay, so this was a case of how complex and how ever dynamic and how dynamic and ever changing the business environment is. Our next characteristic or next nature of business environment is that it is complex. Complex, as in it is difficult to even understand. You won't even know from where trouble is coming. You may be running a business well, and soon you may just fall in trouble. This is a case of the Tylenol murders, where 7 people died. Tylenol is a painkiller, like how you have a Combiflam in India. Tylenol is a painkiller in US. So it's a over the counter medicine. People would just go and buy Tylenol in case of pain. So 7 people who had this medicine died, and then they realized, and they went into huge amount of forensic understanding of how how this happened, and then they figured out that people had there has been some miscreants who have actually tampered with the capsule and put potassium cyanide in it. Can you imagine potassium cyanide being put into this capsule? So that is because this box, which you can see here, was it was not tamper proof. Okay, so it is complex when your customer will be affected, and as a result Tylenol was out of business for quite some time. Then they took quite a bit of time to come back into the market again, try and tell their customers that we are safe. Then they had to put a new safety seal and all, saying that now we are good to go. We've added a safety seal and nobody can tamper with our the Tylenol medicine. But all that took time, right? So definitely business suffered quite a bit, and 7 people eventually died after taking Tylenol capsules which were filled with cyanide. Yes, it is complex. The nature of environment is complex. It is dynamic and ever changing, as I told you with the example of Bajaj. Next one is interrelatedness. Interrelatedness. So business and the environment will always go hand in hand. Always. Okay. And whatever happens in the environment, say for example, the political structure of the political parties change. For example, in India, when it comes to ease of doing business, what is ease of doing business? Like, say if I want to set up a shop if I want to set up a business in Pune, how many days will it take to set up a business? How many people will I have to meet? How many papers will I have to sign? How much will I have to run pillar to post? How many permissions will I have to take? All that used to be a huge mess in India some 10 years ago. It was a big mess. Okay, we were at a rate, when it comes to ease of doing business all across the world, there are people who take the survey. We were at 142. Out of 190 countries, we were so poor. Our ranking was 142 10 years ago. Today we are at 63. We have improved so much. If you want to start a business, you know how many days it takes to get a GST number? 2 days. In 2 days, you'll get your GST number. Earlier, it used to take months to get a GST number. Then you go pillar to post to get several more permissions to buy a machine or to hire employees or to get your gratuity approval. Anything would take months. Now it's done easily. So when your environment changes, when your business environment changes, automatically your business also will do well. Like now India is, our Honorable Prime Minister is promoting Make in India, which is doing exceedingly well. So many new businessmen, so much of benefit, so much of easy loan approval is given to people who want to start businesses. Okay, so when the environment is conducive to starting a business, the business automatically will do well, and that goes without saying, right? So always business and environment will go hand in hand. So we've seen interrelatedness, we've seen the complexity of the environment, okay, and we've seen it's a dynamic and ever changing in nature. Okay. Next one. Uncertainty. Business is uncertain. Always. Why? Because your environment is uncertain. You can be certain about your internal environment. You are in control of the way you run your firm. You know your bank. You know your bank is going to keep giving you money or loan or whatever. You know your employees are doing well, doing good. You have ethics in place. You have the right leadership in place. But what about things like this? COVID-19. No one anticipated this. No one saw it coming. It just came and it fell on our heads with like a ton of bricks, right? And everything, so many businesses shut down as a result of COVID-19. So uncertainty in environment is something which, and of course the impact that it will have on businesses is the way it is, and we saw it during the coronavirus season. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, and that is interdependence. Business is affected by economic conditions, okay, of the environment. For example, during the recession time, recession was in 2008, or any other recession which happens, okay, even if it could be, okay, let's look at 2008 itself. Firms will, when there is a recession, what happens? People will stop buying things. So what does the companies do? They pile up their inventories and they will hold on to the stock that they have, because they know that there are no customers. They'll hold on to their stock they have, and then they will sell it when the recession is out, or when the condition is good enough to go, when it is normal and boom condition. So business, on the other hand, can also create artificial scarcity of goods by piling up inventory and forcing the economic conditions to show signs of adversity, while it is not actually so. So business and the environment both are interdependent. Okay, they are affected by each other. A business firm and its environment are mutually interdependent. The economic status of a country affects the development of technology, or it may change the lifestyle of people. Okay.